collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 238 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comments section and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comments section of this video, and hopefully you will be featured next week. If you do happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you are new. Before we get on to this week's questions, I've just got a couple of things that I need to talk about, and the first one is, of course, that we had the last figure standing live stream last night where we showed the results of round 1. There are now only 6 characters left, and you are able to vote. The link is in the description below for you to vote. I think you get to pick up to 3. And 4 will go through to the next round. So the 6 that are on your screen at the moment are the ones that went through. And yes, shaping up pretty nicely. It was a cool live stream last night with my buddies Chris and John, as always. Second thing I need to talk about is I went to Echo Live over the weekend. It's a toy show, toy fair type thing, only Star Wars in the UK, happens twice a year. And I can't really do a pickups video for it because I didn't really pick up enough stuff, basically. So I've just put a few things that I picked up in front of you here. First of all, we have Bib Fortuna. Now, of course, you know, that's nothing special, but it's actually signed by Michael Carter, who played Bib Fortuna in Return of the Jedi. So that's pretty cool. I got that signed. Thank you to Phil the Force for bringing me a Bib Fortuna with him. Because the ones that I were trying to get hold of never arrived in time. So thank you, Phil. I really appreciate that. Brad from Rocket City Sith, you're one of those. Will be in the post to you very soon, because I know you wanted one of those as well. So we managed to pick that up for you. Second thing is I do have Torn Wee here on the Attack of the Clones card. Now, Martin from the a long time ago YouTube channel was selling a bunch of old stuff from his loft, and I wanted this one, and he said I'll just bring it to Echo for you, and he actually ended up giving it to me. I did offer him a bit of money for it, but he was adamant he didn't want anything for it, so thank you so much for that, Martin. Martin hosts that channel with his cousin Adam, and it's a really cool channel, so check it out. Apart from that, all I really picked up was a bit of swag, really. You know, loads of people bring some swag that they've made. My buddy Tom made these plectrums, or guitar pick, if you want to call it that, and it says Echo Base Live Endor, which is pretty cool. And Dan, my mate Dan Solo, he made this cool little arcade machine, which is in the style of the Return of the Jedi arcade machine. Let me just see if I can get that a bit closer up. So it's got some decals on the side there, and it's even got on the screen an image of the game being played with the Scout Walkers there, which is pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't really tend to take swag to swap with people, so thank you guys for, you know, letting me have some of those, because these two things are pretty cool. So that's about it from my trip to Echo Live, really, apart from meeting a lot of friends and things like that. These are the only real things that I managed to pick up. I tend to go there now just to meet up with people, really, rather than buy anything substantial. With all that being said, let's get on to the first question of the week. Hyperspace Case 1287 says, "Hey BB, are you surprised Hasbro hasn't done a redeco Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett yet?" Yes and no, basically. I'm not surprised because, you know, we've had a lot of Mandalorian style characters. You know, Empire Strikes Back isn't really on their radar at this moment in time. We've kind of missed that boat. On the other hand, I am surprised because when you have got a figure of the Return of the Jedi standard, when you compare it to the one that we have from the Empire Strikes Back, this one is severely lacking now, and it would be very, very cool to have his, you know, like first appearance, basically, his Empire Strikes Back look. So on that hand, I am surprised, but I'm kind of not surprised really at the end of the day, but I'm sure it'll come one day. And when they do it, I hope it's going to be an awesome figure. Channel member Reckless Tech says, "Awesome vid as always. Tim, question for next week. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming Ewing, but find myself already disappointed it doesn't come with a stand. My N1 just looks so great on my desk, and I'd love to be able to rotate my desk centerpiece with different Star Wars ships. Has there been any talk of making the M1 style stand standard with ships at this price point? If not, can we start some? And do you know of anyone that's had any luck dremeling or drilling out holes in other ships, for example the X-Wing, to successfully work with the N1 stand?" First of all, I kind of wouldn't advise that. I mean, I just would not try that. I would end up probably cracking the plastic on, you know, my X-Wing or something like that. So I'd maybe look at maybe getting a sort of custom stand that you can just sort of sit it on at an angle. I know some people in the community create that sort of thing. So I wouldn't advise drilling into your other ships. That's just my opinion. In terms of the E-Wing, yes, they've kind of made a rod for their own back with the N1 Starfighter, haven't they? Because that is an awesome stand, the way it sort of attaches to the bottom of the ship and you can have it all different angles and things like that. It's just great. And you're right, it is a little bit disappointing that you're not going to be able to do the same thing with the E-Wing. And yeah, I think any ship that is in that price range, $100 to $125, pounds if you like, should come with a stand from now on. And it's something that I will bring up with Hasbro next time I get a chance to speak to them, I guess, because I think it's a very good point. Cool Plastic Toys. What's the deal with Hasbro celebrating Return of the Jedi and going halfway with it? They gave us Jabba the Hutt, but no Gamorrean guards, band members, creatures, etc. Heck, they never gave us a Bomber Monk, and they were recently featured on the Disney show. It's so upsetting for new collectors. First of all, buddy, I completely understand your pain with this. You know, if you're a new collector, then you kind of want to be able to get it all at the same time. The Jabba the Hutt kind of was like an afterthought for me. I think, you know, we ended up getting that this year rather than last year. It was an add-on to the Book of Boba Fett throne room, which really should have been a Jabba the Hutt's throne room. But of course, they wanted to tie it in with the Book of Boba Fett because that was the, you know, the newer of the two medias. So really, the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary celebration more had a focus on Endor. So we got the Endor bunker, we got a reissue of the ATST, we got a new speeder bike. Really what they should have done for that is they should have gone, you know, the whole hog with that and maybe, you know, given us like an Ewok 2-pack or perhaps like a 4-pack of Rebel Commandos. That's kind of what I was thinking was missing from the 40th anniversary celebrations, if you like. The Jabba thing sort of came later. I know that we got a couple of other things in the form of, you know, officers, and we got the skiff guards pack, didn't we, and things like that, but most of it was Endor. Josh Intola says, hi Tim, was wondering if you know what causes the discoloration of the Legacy Collection Millennium Falcon. Mine doesn't have discoloration. I'd like to prevent it from happening, thanks. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure on the science of this, but ultimately you just want to keep it out of sunlight. I think the ones that have gone yellow have been exposed to some kind of sunlight, not necessarily direct sunlight, but they might have been in a room that, you know, the curtains are open or whatever and light is coming in. So they don't necessarily have to be right in the sun. And it's like anything with these plastics, they degrade and they discolor over time. And I think if you want to be able to preserve yours for as long as possible, then keep it in a room that's got like a blackout blind or has UV protection on the windows, that kind of thing. Who knows, they might all go yellow eventually, but the ones that I've seen tend to be the ones that have been sort of on display in someone's room, as I say, with the curtains open or whatever. My one that I got with the Galaxy's Edge version has always been in a collection room that has zero sunlight, and so far so good. So I think that's the way to go, buddy. John Dunlap says, never apologise for anything, buddy. You're a bounty hunter, for goodness sakes. On a serious note, a Death Star theme or HasLab centered around this makes sense. You and your friends have discussed this and it would be massive and expensive. My question is, if they did many HasLabs like the Jabba's throne room and did sections around 250 to 300 a piece, like a trash compactor scene, throne room scene, or the meeting room scene, a prison room, maybe a hangar bay, but something like that could be a year or two theme where a lot would be covered, would be fantastic. I've got absolutely no doubts that it would be fantastic, and you know, a HasLab Death Star to me sounds amazing, but I just don't think it would be realistic for them to get it done in 1 or 2 years. At the end of the day, we have one HasLab a year, and I don't think it's fair for other collectors that, you know, for the next 4 HasLabs it's a piece of the Death Star, basically. I just don't see that as being a thing. And also, who really wants to wait that long for a complete Death Star? So for me, if they're ever going to be doing a Death Star as a HasLab project, it has to be an all-in-one thing, and that would make it very expensive, and that's maybe one of the reasons why we don't have that. I'm just guessing, but I would imagine it's one of those things that has been discussed by the team, you know, the potential of a Death Star HasLab, but when push comes to shove, there may be a few issues of why they can't do it, and price, I think, is one of the major factors. But that doesn't mean to say that they will never do it, and that also doesn't mean to say that they won't do your idea, but maybe as like Pulse exclusive items on the size of the throne room. Maybe they could do it like that, but certainly not as like a HasLab, because we're just never going to get more than one HasLab a year. I doubt it's never going to happen like that. Channel member Carl Wilson says, hi BB, question for next week. Now that we have a creature release in the Blurg in TVC, do you think it won't be long before we see a new Bantha added to the line? I would like to see it with the Book of Boba Fett packaging with either a Tusken or Boba himself. The Blurg set is great, with a lot of collectors buying 2 for an opener and a carded figure with Quill on the other Blurg. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, I've got no doubt that the Blurg has been a success. I mean, I have no data around that, but just by looking at how many collectors have picked it up and the sort of chat around it, and you know, the pleasure that it's giving people finally having a Blurg, or Blurgs as you say, in their collection, I'm one of those people. I'm very, very happy with it, and I think that does, you know, really help the sort of cause for more creatures in TVC. Not 100% sure about a Bantha mind, you never know, but I can definitely see them doing more creatures. That is going to be a thing. I've got no doubt about that. As I say, whether it's going to be a Bantha next year, possibly not. Rich2387 says, question for next week. I was an avid collector from 1995 to 2010, but left the hobby at uni. Last month I started collecting again and have picked up a lot of TVC 2.0. The main thing that brought me back was seeing the Deluxe Cantina, but I was 3 weeks too late to back it. Now I've seen it, I can't imagine putting the cardboard one up. What is my best way of picking this up on the secondary market, eBay, convention forums? I accept I'll have to pay a mark up now, but I'm hoping I can pay under 700. Thankfully, they've only released 2 new Cantina patrons since 2010. My advice to you, buddy, is pretty simple, is wait and bide your time, at least until people have got it in hand. There will be people out there that bought multiples as an investment and they will just get rid of them straight away. There will be people out there that bought it and no longer want it and will get rid of it. There's all sorts of reasons why they will come up on the secondary market, and there's absolutely no doubt that they will. But I would wait and just be patient, because I think even 700 is a bit of a stretch for, you know, especially the non-deluxe version. I think you'll be able to get it cheaper than that. You never know. I mean, it depends whether you want the figures as well, you know, if you're a carded collector or if you want them loose, because there's going to be a few people that just want the carded figures, the Tonica sisters, things like that, and they'll just sell the playset part. So if all you're interested in is the Cantina, then that will be actually quite easy to pick up. That's my opinion on about it anyway, but, you know, let me know in the comments if you feel I'm wrong. Meter86 says, question for next week. If things go the way we're all predicting, Return to Tatooine followed by Return to Hoth, then what happens when we hit episode 6, Return to Endor? Is there enough there to justify a line? And if not, do we skip it and return to Naboo? Cheers as always for cool ending to the week. So first of all, I'm not too sure if people are predicting that it will be Return to Hoth. I think it is just sort of, you know, people expressing what they want. And I was getting a lot of questions asking me what I would like it to be, and I think I said, you know, it'd be either really cool to have something from maybe Order 66, or, you know, maybe they could go to Hoth, you know, but I think just because it's polar opposites in terms of Tatooine's hot and Hoth is cold, maybe that's why, and maybe one's from A New Hope and then it just naturally goes on to The Empire Strikes Back. But I don't really think that means we're definitely going to be going to Hoth. In fact, I doubt we will. So in answer to your question, you know, in terms of Return to Endor, yeah, I think the Return of the Jedi is kind of done now. As I mentioned in one of the previous questions, we did get quite a lot for Endor. So my guess is that we will go on to, so maybe something around Order 66, which I've, you know, mentioned before, because there is a lot that you could do for that. You've got clones, Jedis, there's loads of stuff, main characters, vehicles, a lot of good stuff for Order 66, so maybe they could do something like that. Mika Goodman says, hey BB, question for next week. Where is the Ghost? We should have gotten some updates by now. Absolutely, we should have done, and I do believe that Steve Evans was on a live stream the other day. I do apologise, I can't remember what channel it was on, but he did kind of give it a little bit of an update, saying it's going to be late fall, so possibly like the 1st or 2nd week of December. Not too sure if that's a delay or not. I think they did originally say fall 2024, so it's still in there, even though it's right at the back end of it. So that's that. But yeah, there's some conventions coming up, isn't there? We've got New York Comic Con and London Comic Con, so maybe we can get a bit more information out of them. Maybe they'll even have a small announcement to make an update of some kind. We'll have to wait and see. Lil Pookie says, I need more TVC. Seems like we are in a lull as of late. Question for next week. What are some upcoming events for reveals, and what Trooper Builder 4-pack would you want next? Thanks, BB. So in terms of reveals and, you know, what's upcoming, as I just mentioned in the previous question, we've got New York Comic Con. Not too sure if there's going to be any reveals there, but there is definitely going to be some reveals at MCM Comic Con, and I'm kind of going to be involved with it this year, which is good. There's no panel, so no actual panel at MCM London this year, but they will have a fairly large booth with all different sections for Transformers, Star Wars, G.I. Joe and Marvel, and there will be reveals from all of those lines, TVC and Black Series. I believe Star Wars is happening at around 11:30 on the Saturday the 26th of October. So in the US that'll be quite early in the morning, even Eastern time. So be sure to check out my social media or my website or my YouTube channel, because things will be dropping around that time with some reveals. So that is something to look forward to. In terms of a Trooper Builder 4-pack, I'm going to go back to the Rebel Commando 4-pack. I think they missed a trick on that. I would love for them to do that. So there's one for you, buddy. Major Camo says, your Q&As are one of the best parts of my Sunday. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, BB, question for next week. We all know who your favourite character is, but what is your favourite scene from the Star Wars saga? Mine is Yoda's cavalry from Attack of the Clones. Oh man, there is a lot to love, as we all know. I think I've answered this before, but a long time ago. I always go back to the scene in Return of the Jedi with Vader and Luke. Luke's just been captured, basically, and it's that whole conversation they have. Luke almost gets to him, doesn't he? And he says it's too late for him. You know, he almost gets him. And also it's where Vader kind of realises how powerful Luke has become, and he's constructed his new lightsaber. I just love that scene. And also the fight as well between them when, you know, it's coming to the end and the swell of the music. Just amazing. But if I can count other things from the Star Wars saga, is that just the 6 films, or are we talking about all of Star Wars? Some of the recent things from Andor, like the Rick's Road funeral scene. That is possibly the best piece of Star Wars since the original trilogy for me. And I love the prequels, by the way. But that really got me, that did. Mitchell Gum says, Han Solo Hoth outfit. Question for next week. Blue coat or brown coat? What say you? For my preference, I'd love to go TVC 1.0 and get back to having fun and have a true figure variant. Both colour variations issued on the same VC number. Bring back the fun. I'm with you on that, buddy. You have talked about this before, that TVC needs to be a bit more fun with, you know, variants and things like that. Things to look out for. In terms of Han Solo's outfit, I always thought it was blue. The Kenner figure was blue. And I only found out a little bit later in my life that it was brown. You know, it looked blue to me, but apparently it was brown. It was just the way the lighting was on screen that it was blue. This one here is the Vintage Saga Collection one, I think, and this one's blue. I think I prefer it being blue, actually, but I do know there are ones out there. I think the Black Series one, they made sure it is brown. So yeah, let's have a figure variant where you get one of each, right? And while they're at it, as I mentioned, I think in last week's episode, bring out the Tauntaun again. Bring out Han Solo's Tauntaun. We've got Luke's. We need Han Solo's to go with it. It was released in the, Legacy Collection or something. But, you know, get it back out there. JP Black says, hey Tim, love your videos. As always, I love your perspective and reviews. Question for next week. With the shipping strike here in the US, do you think there will be a delay on the Ghost shipping? Thanks as always. This isn't really something that I can speak to because I wasn't even aware that there was a shipping strike in the US, and you know, I'm not really too sure what that would affect, whether it affects all shipping companies or if it's, you know, the shipping boats. From my understanding, when I heard Steve Evans talking about you know, the state of the Ghost and where it's at the moment, you know, I think they might be sort of packing it and starting to ship it maybe over to the various different countries, so maybe it'll miss that strike. But yeah, it's not really something that I can comment too much on, but fingers crossed it doesn't, because the last thing we want is another delay. Apocalypse says, hello boss, question for next week. If we are getting another 4-pack of clones for 2025, which would you like to see? Galactic Marines, 327th, Shock Troopers, or the Kashyyyk Troopers? I personally would want to see the 4-pack of Shock Troopers or Marines, but all would be appreciated. Oh man, that's almost like asking me which one of my kids is my favourite. It's very difficult to answer it, impossible. I love my kids both the same. But if I had to pick any out of those, I think I'd go with the Kashyyyk Troopers. I love the look of those with the camo and things like that. And I also love Revenge of the Sith and the whole Order 66 thing. So I would go with those. But Galactic Marines would be a very, very close second. Pimpsky Yeti says, question for next week. You've said before that you don't think Yoda's Hut would be a good HasLab because of lack of figures. I think it could be the perfect size. It would have tons of play features, including a brand new X-Wing sculpt, Cave of Evil, his hut of course, and other areas. And in terms of lack of figures, there is R2 Luke in pilot gear, Luke in training gear, Yoda, Darth Vader, Cave of Evil, and Force Ghost Obi-Wan. What are your thoughts? It could even open up the possibility of future creature packs in the line. To be honest, buddy, I think I'm going to stick with my original opinion on it, and I'm not saying that I would not want a Yoda's Hut and it wouldn't be cool. It would. You know, it would be really good for a display piece and what have you. To me, I'm not really overly interested in too many play features necessarily, because it is just going to be sort of a display piece for me. And I'm still sticking with the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, we've already got a Yoda, we've already got an R2-D2, you know, of course they just need to sort of weather him up or whatever. Luke in training gear, I agree, definitely needs updating. The one we have is terrible. Darth Vader, we've had a lot of Darth Vaders recently. Yes, it would be cool to have the one with the, you know, broken mask with Luke's head inside on the new sculpt, but we still have that already not too long ago in TVC. So to me, there isn't still enough to get me really sort of interested in that. I think it would be better as like just a Pulse exclusive hut by itself. As for the brand new X-Wing, I think we're all in agreement that that would be a good thing, but I don't necessarily think we need a HasLab Yoda's Hut to get that, if that makes sense. Jones Boy 79 says, question for next week. Hey Bossk, another great episode. With the new Streets of Mos Eisley set coming out, do you think the new playset will plug in with the upcoming HasLab Cantina? It appears they both have the 3 tab holes and the plastic colour scheme seems to correlate. It would be awesome to build out the outside scene of the Cantina. I'd love to see Hasbro build on to their previous designs to really help collectors who love to world build. So I've had a look at the 2 sort of images of the playset and the Cantina, and it is, you know, they do look like potentially they could, but I wouldn't want to say a definitive yes, I think they do, until I've actually seen the Cantina and that playset. Hopefully they'll have those at MCM, and hopefully Chris Reef will be at MCM London, so maybe I can ask him then, and then we'll have more of a definitive answer. And, you know, maybe if I do find out that answer, I'll put it up on Instagram or whatever. But, you know, this is one of the things that's a shame that they don't really seem to do those Q&As anymore after reveals, especially after a big HasLab reveal, because these are the sorts of questions that we need answering, right? And that's exactly the sort of question that one of us in the community that, you know, goes on those Q&As, we could have asked that question, but hopefully we'll find out by MCM London. This is No Cave says, question for next week. A lot of collectors, myself included, missed the days when we had a medium vehicle assortment that was always on shelves, ranging in price from $20 to $30. Unfortunately, those days are long gone, and the current vehicle situation tends towards larger vehicles at a significantly higher price, exceptions being something like the Skiff or even the Imperial Combat Assault Tank. But if Hasbro were to return an ongoing TVC medium-sized vehicle assortment to retail, what do you think the MSRP would be, and do you think it could be sustainable? And what vehicles would you want to see if Hasbro could return to this kind of vehicle to retail on a regular basis? So this is a complicated subject, and it's one that Chris kind of addressed on the live stream last night. And ultimately it comes down to, you know, if you're looking back at the day with the $20 to $30 range of medium vehicles, essentially at that point in time they were toys and adults were buying toys. Now the vintage collection isn't, you know, even Hasbro call it a adult collector line, it's a fan line. These things aren't in mass in toy shops anymore. They are much more detailed. They don't necessarily have to have lights and sounds and as many play features anymore. They just need to be accurate, intricate, and, you know, have all the detailing and paint applications and things like that. So when you look at the Ewing, for example, that was 100. The Merrick's X-Wing, even though that was a repaint, was a little bit more than that, I feel. So I feel that that is the price range that we are in for that sized vehicle. And like one of the previous questions, it would be nice for that price if it came with a stand. That would be awesome, because if you're following along these lines of them not really being toys anymore and more of a collectible, then it would be nice to be able to display them in a way a collector would, as it were. So, but there's loads of vehicles that I would like them to do in that sort of mid-range size. Darth Vader's TIE Fighter is one of them. I was about to say the Ewing, but I think that would need to be bigger and possibly a HasLab option rather than a retail option. There was a couple of ships from Ahsoka recently which I thought were pretty cool. I think Shin Hati's little fighter was good. Maybe that wouldn't be a medium size, but that sort of thing I would love for them to get out into the line. So there's a couple for you, but yeah, vehicles I feel it's a bit of a complicated issue at the moment, especially with retailers don't seem to be willing to sort of take those on, and more often than not they are Pulse exclusives, Disney Park exclusives and things like that, just like with the Ewing. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. Before I do wrap up this video, I just want to bring your attention to my most recent mini-series that I've got on my channel. It's where I'm opening some older figures for my own version of Return to Tatooine, which is happening next year. So I'm building out my collection this year in 2024, and the first figure I did was this little R5 unit by opening up some Legacy Collection figures where I got the parts for it. I already had some of the parts, but I opened some of the figures for it. There will be some more episodes of my Return to Tatooine where I open other figures for Tatooine, not all from the original trilogy as well. There's going to be some prequel trilogy ones in there as well, which is pretty cool. So be sure to check that video out if you haven't done already. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members as always. Your support means the world to me as always, so thank you so much. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.